Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I wanted to talk about wild geranium, also known as Cranesbill or wild Cranesbill, has several other names. You can look, the flower is very tiny and it's just beautiful. I really love the shape of the leaves. And the thing is interesting about this is I didn't intentionally plant one bit of it. It just ended up growing in my garden a couple of years ago. Mostly loving this shadier area here. You can see it doesn't continue on here because that area right there gets the most sun out of this whole section here on this side of our great room. This section tends to stay shaded most of the day. And that's why there's not much growing back in here. The marshmallow seems to not mind being in some shade, but everything else besides that and the wild geranium tend to like it better down there. So anyway, and I didn't know what it was. And I just was letting it grow initially because I thought it was pretty, but then when it started self-seeding and going all over the place, I, started pulling it up. So I am still trying to keep it up out of here because I am hoping to grow some other things in here. But I asked last year when I was doing an update on this garden, I was asking someone if they knew what it was, and they said that looked like wild geranium. So I got to looking it up and come to find out it is, a lot of people grow it for its beauty, but it also does have medicinal and health benefits, mostly medicinal, and it's mostly in the roots, though the leaves can be used. And I want to pan over here. My son, he lives in a trailer here parked on our property, and obviously this side, this is why this section here stays shaded, is because of his trailer. You can see it growing thick all around his trailer, and I just think it's beautiful. So I don't mind leaving it here. And anyway, so we have plenty of it to spare. So let me do another close-up, get a really good look at it if you're unfamiliar. And then this is what it looks like when it's getting ready to go to seed. Now apparently the leaves can be used too, but you want to harvest them actually before it starts seeding from what I was reading about it. But the roots are where most of the benefit is. And here's the cool thing about this stuff is even if it does take over, even at this size, it will very easy to pull up, much like the borage. And in fact, the only reason this right here looks very thin is because it was real thick, like this over here. But that's because I keep breaking it back. It breaks really easy. Here, I'll show you. It just snaps back really easy, and I just kind of keep pulling it back just to, because I do have other things planted in there, and I do plan on putting more stuff in there, see if I can find more things that don't mind so much shade, and I don't want it totally overcrowding it. So I just kind of keep breaking that back. And it's the only reason it looks that thin. I've just tried to thin it out a little bit. Otherwise, it would just be this thick carpet. So if you want something for its beauty and medicinal purposes, and you want a good ground cover, this is it right here. This is one of them because it grows quickly, it spreads quickly, and it's just beautiful. Okay, well I'm out here on my back deck now, and I thought I would read to you from here a few notes on the Cranesbill or the wild geranium. What I have right here is something I printed off from ChineseHerbs.org, and that's Chinese-herbs.org, and it's another good place to look up some different medicinal herbs. So there's a lot of good places you can look things up online. I do talk about some of them in my how to do a research on medicinal herbs, and I'll go ahead and link to that video right up here. And so there's a lot of good places online you can look. You do have to be careful on which ones you get, but at least if you have a few different places you can go to, you can cross-reference and see if you can find similar information on at least a couple of different sites. And then also have yourself a good reference hard copy book that you can use that to double check or triple check the things that you're looking into. So I'm going to read from this, and then I'm going to show you a little bit out of this book here. So the part that's used mostly is going to be the roots. Though the leaves do have some benefits and can be used, it is the roots that you're going to want to save. Those are going to have the best benefits, as I think is with most things where you're going to use the roots. Typically you're going to find most of the benefits in the roots rather than in the leaves, but a lot of plants, all parts have equal uses like the dandelion. So as far as health benefits, let's get into that. So, well, here is the leaf tea. So using the leaf to make a tea can be helpful in treating digestive orders, treating diarrhea, especially in children, gastritis, gastrointestinal problems, helps to stop bleeding and to relieve gum disease. Now, when it comes to the roots, making a tea out of that, I would say even a decoction, something that's steeped for a very long time. Usually when you're doing your roots, that's what you're going to do. That's going to be used as a tonic for burns and wounds, in case of infections, in case of internal bleeding, uterine bleeding, ulcers, heavy menstrual periods, gingivitis, sore throat and sore mouth, toothache, urinary system infections and inflammations, jaundice, and stomach problems. Okay, so now I'm going to be reading to you out of this book here. This is volume 2 of the Energetics of Western Herbs. Now, if you choose to buy these books, it is a bit of an investment, but I highly recommend it because it's pretty comprehensive. You need both books together. It is a worthwhile expense if you can afford it. Its effective qualities are astringent, somewhat sweet, cool, dry, restoring, and solidifying. Now this specifically refers to just the root being used, where this one over here that I read from the online source talks about the leaves as well. But again, the root is the part that's used the most. And it tells you too on how to prepare it as a decoction or a tincture, as an infusion, and so on. And so this is highly recommended that you get this. Now, even though the wild geranium is not listed in these other books that I have here, I want to mention these because I get a lot of people, I talk about them a lot, and I get a lot of people that ask me, you know, what is a good starter book for beginners? And the one I've always recommended is this one, and I still highly recommend Rosemary Gladstar's Medicinal Herbs, and it does say a beginner's guide. It's very colorful, just beautifully laid out. And then the other one that I also highly recommend, this is a new one, this is by Amy Fuel. Now, though I haven't had a chance to read everything in this book, I did read the intro, the beginner part, chapter 1. You must read it, okay? Excellent book, excellent for beginners, excellent for anyone, even if you're not a beginner. It's very practical, very hands-on. She's got all kinds of recipes in there, ways that you can use this for yourself, for your kids, for your livestock even. And I do know she's coming out with a livestock-related book, like a small little supplement book that you might want to check out as well. But I will also link to this below. Very, just excellently done. I just cannot say enough good stuff about this book, especially if you're just getting started and you've got a homestead, you've got kids, you've got animals, and you want to find real practical ways to use this, and then have just a real good understanding. And I learned a lot from this just reading the introduction and the chapter 1. She lays out like dosages, all the different ways to use tinctures and so on, and then she has a profile on a whole bunch of great herbs in here. So these are the top 2 I recommend for beginners, and I will link to those below. Another really good one that's a very low investment. There's really not anything for pictures in here. It's very, very simple, but I think I only paid $8 for this, and this is Kat Ellis's Prepper's Natural Medicine book. Another real good one to have on hand. And I think if you're, these 3 here are a really good place to start. And then if you're wanting to get more comprehensive and know about, because people say, well, I got things growing on my property and I don't know what it is, then I would say find a book like what I have here, for our area, Plants of the Pacific Northwest Coast. This is very good, and I am going to link to this one below. This is for people who live in Washington, Oregon, British Columbia, and Alaska. And so just to give you an idea, it shows pictures of all the different plants And these aren't just medicinal plants, these are just anything that's going to grow in your area. And it'll help you to be able to identify different herbs. So I don't know if this is the place that makes this, if they make books for all over the world in your different areas, but I will see if I can find something. But maybe even going through this link, you might be able to find something that's more applicable to your own area. And it was really helpful to me when I put up that video a year ago and that person identified that that looks like wild geranium. Looked it up, sure enough, that's what it is. And so this year I have yet to use it, so I can't share with you this information based on my own uses like I have with the pansies or the marshmallow or anything else that I'm growing around here, the feverfew, catnip, and so on. But I will be trying it out later this year because you want to harvest your roots in the fall. So I'll be harvesting them then and then drying them up and then seeing if I can use them for some of the various things that is listed here. But anyway, there's something that you can look into. If you've got it growing wild on your property as well, now you know what it's good for and you may want to keep it. If you're not growing it yet, you might say, hey, that's a great herb to grow on my property and make a good ground cover. It's beautiful and it's got its uses. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.